All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about the ultimate solar factory. And I'm not talking about some high-tech facility. I'm talking about a process that's happening right now in every single leaf on the planet. It's a process that literally builds life out of thin air and sunlight. It is the engine that powers our entire world. So, how in the world does it work? I mean,
Have you ever really stopped to think about it? How does a tiny, tiny seed grow into a massive tree? It's just using sunlight, air, and water, right? Where does all that stuff, the wood, the leaves, the sheer size of it, where does all that mass actually come from? It feels like magic.
well, the answer is a single, incredible word: photosynthesis. It's the process where plants create their own food, their own fuel, from the simplest raw materials around, all powered by light. You can think of it like a secret recipe, one that turns basic ingredients into life itself. It's hands down the most important factory on our planet.
Okay, so if it's a secret recipe, what's in it? Let's break down exactly what goes into this amazing process. So here it is, the recipe in plain English. The inputs are super simple. Carbon dioxide from the air, the stuff we breathe out, and water from the soil. Then, using light energy, which is captured by that green stuff in leaves, chlorophyll, the plant works its magic. And the outputs? Two things that are absolutely vital for life: glucose, which is a sugar that acts as the plant's food, and of course, the oxygen we need to breathe.
All right, let's get just a little more technical, but don't worry, it's not scary. This is the same recipe, just in the language of chemistry. And what it shows us is how precise this process is. It's not just a splash of this and a bit of that. Nope. It takes exactly 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water to cook up just 1 molecule of glucose. And as a fantastic bonus, we get 6 molecules of oxygen out of the deal.
So we know what the plant needs, but how does it actually get all these ingredients to where they need to go? It's like a tiny living factory floor.
This flowchart lays it all out beautifully. First, the water. The plant has this amazing internal plumbing system that sucks water up from the roots and delivers it all the way to the leaves. At the same exact time, the leaves are breathing in carbon dioxide from the air through these tiny little pores. Then, once the magic happens and glucose and oxygen are made, the glucose gets sent around the plant for energy and to build new parts. And the extra oxygen? Well, that just gets released back into the air for us. Pretty good deal, right?
Now here's a really important point, a common little trip up. Light is absolutely essential, but it's not an ingredient. It's not a raw material. Think of it this way. If you're baking a cake, flour and sugar are your raw materials. The oven's heat is the energy you need to turn them into a cake. For the plant, carbon dioxide and water are the flour and sugar. Light energy is the oven's heat. It's the power source that makes the whole thing go.
Okay, this all sounds like a great theory, but how do we know? How can we be sure that the plant really needs light and carbon dioxide and chlorophyll? Well, this is where we get to play detective and look at some really clever experiments that prove it.
So the first question is, how do we even check if photosynthesis has been happening? The glucose that's made gets used up pretty fast for energy, but any extra glucose, the plant cleverly converts into starch to store for later. So if we can find starch in a leaf, that's our evidence. It's like finding the finished product on the factory's loading dock. It's solid proof that production was happening.
And the way we test for that starch is with iodine. But you can't just drop iodine on a fresh leaf. First, you have to boil it in water to break down the tough outer cells. Then, and this is the key step, you boil it in ethanol to get rid of all that green chlorophyll. Why? Because the green color would totally hide the result. After a quick rinse, you add the iodine solution, and the result is dramatic. If there's starch, the leaf turns this dark blue-black color. No starch, no color change. Simple as that.
So first up, let's test for light. This experiment is so simple and so smart. You just take a leaf that's still on the plant and cover a little strip of it with something opaque, like black paper or foil. You leave it in the sun for a few hours, then you do our starch test, and look at that result. The parts of the leaf that were exposed to light turn that deep blue-black. The part that was covered, nothing. It's crystal clear proof. No light, no photosynthesis.
Okay, what about chlorophyll? How do we prove that green stuff is what's doing the work? Well, nature gives us the perfect tool for the job, a variegated leaf. You've seen these, right? They have green patches and white or yellow patches. The green bits have chlorophyll, the white bits don't. It's like a built-in control group. So you run the starch test on one of these leaves, and the result is just perfect. Only the areas that were originally green turn blue-black. This tells us without a doubt that photosynthesis only happens where there's chlorophyll.
Last but not least, carbon dioxide. Well, this one's a bit more involved. You take two plants and put them under sealed glass jars. Under one jar with plant A, you put a chemical that absorbs all the carbon dioxide out of the air. The other jar with plant B is our control. It just has normal air. You give them both light and water. Then, after a while, you test a leaf from each. And again, the results speak for themselves. The leaf from the plant with CO2 is full of starch. The leaf from the plant that was starved of CO2? Nothing. The factory was completely shut down.
All right, so we've got the recipe and we've got the proof that all the ingredients are essential. But now, let's zoom out. Why does this one little process in a leaf matter so much to, well, to us? And this is where it all connects. Take a look. Photosynthesis builds food, stores energy, uses carbon dioxide, and releases oxygen. Now think about respiration. That's the process all living things, including us, use to get energy from food. It does the exact opposite. It breaks down food, releases energy, releases carbon dioxide, and uses oxygen. They're literally two sides of the same coin, a perfect, beautiful planetary cycle. And this is so cool. The connection is so perfect that if you write out the chemical equation for photosynthesis, and then you write out the one for aerobic respiration, they are exact mirror images of each other. You just flip the arrow, what plants make, we use, what we breathe out, they breathe in. It's this incredible, elegant symmetry that keeps the whole planet in balance. And this leads to maybe the most important takeaway of all. Now, plants do respire, so they use a little oxygen themselves. But during the day, when the sun is out, photosynthesis goes into overdrive. It works way, way faster than their own respiration. And the result is a huge surplus of oxygen, just tons of extra oxygen that the plant doesn't need. So what does it do? It releases it. And that surplus is what fills our atmosphere. It is the very oxygen you and I are breathing right now. Without it, we wouldn't be here, period. So let's leave it with this final thought. Plants have had billions of years to perfect this process. They are, without a doubt, the most efficient and incredible solar factories in the universe. They turn sunlight into fuel, cleanly and quietly all over the world. So the big question for us is, what would our future look like if we could finally learn to copy their recipe?